of doses set aside for long-term care facilities, which is kind of cool since 99% of the time long-term care is far from top priority in healthcare. So it's kind of cool to be in a spot where we would be considered priority for this vaccine, and we're excited. So, but we know that there's lots of fear, apprehension, questions, and we kind of created this meeting to go over that, and also perhaps answer any questions that you may have, and that we can answer questions about anything. But our main topic is the vaccine. So one thing we'd like to go over is why was this vaccine able to be created so quickly, and when most vaccines take several years to develop. And one of the reasons for that is that this was a global effort with lots and lots of resources pooled behind it, lots and lots of focus, money, knowledge, manpower, technology, and also lots and lots of volunteers for the clinical trials. They've tested this on thousands more people than they normally do. I read a number which said there was more than 43,000 participants in the Pfizer trial. I believe I've seen 30,000 elsewhere, so I'm not sure which number is right, but either way, that's quite a few people that have gotten this vaccine already. And we're going to play a short video from, I'm actually not sure where it's from, but we found, Lila found it. It's a very, very informational video which explains things quite a bit better than I can. So Dave's going to hit that link.
The science of vaccinology, together with the tools of public health, are the thing that is going to get us out of this. This will end. This is not something that's going to be with us forever.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I want to know more. Tell me more.
Researchers and scientists, with the support of the U.S. government, are racing against the clock to develop a vaccine against the novel coronavirus.
My name is Dr. Anthony Fauci. I'm the director of the National Institute of Health in the Department of Health and Human Services. What we have here with the coronavirus is a virus that's new, that is highly, highly efficient in spreading from human to human, and it's, relatively speaking, a considerable mortality.
How would a vaccine protect us from the novel coronavirus? The virus that causes COVID-19, known as SARS-CoV-2, is made up of an outer lipid envelope inside of which is coiled a single RNA strand. Once the virus enters the body, its outer protein spikes attach themselves to receptors on cells in the lungs. The spikes allow the RNA strand to slip into healthy cells and reproduce, killing the healthy cell and spewing out multiple new versions of the virus. The host's immune system reacts by creating specific immunity cells to fight the virus. A COVID-19 vaccine would provide a stimulating immune response ahead of any exposure to the virus.
One of the great triumphs of medical science in dealing with infectious diseases has been vaccinations. It has saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. You have smallpox eradicated, polio eliminated, measles in many countries eliminated, rubella, mumps, hepatitis.
To develop a vaccine, typically research sponsors begin by selecting a methodology and developing a candidate through lab research and selective humane testing on animals. With approval from the U.S. clinical trial, Phase 1 of clinical trials assesses the safety of the vaccine in a small group of volunteers. Phase 2 assesses both safety and efficacy of the vaccine in a slightly larger study group, and then efficacy in a large population of subjects against control groups.
In the case of the COVID-19 Phase 3 trials, we're running actually a larger trial than usual. We have 30,000 subjects per trial. I'm Monsef Slaoui, Chief Scientific Advisor to Operation Warp Speed. When the trials will be look at the data and assess whether the vaccines are efficacious and whether they're safe.
I'm Dr. Stephen Hahn, Administration. We have the gold standard of safety and effectiveness for all medical products. The FDA, along with all lines, base the safety of the vaccine. We will not, in terms of our assessment of FDA, of that gold standard of safety and effectiveness.
How long could it take to develop a COVID-19 vaccine? Vaccine development can take years, but there's no set time. COVID-2.
So Operation Warp Speed is taking processes that take years and compress it in 2 months. And the way we do that is by running different processes in parallel rather than sequentially. So for instance, we ramp up manufacturing of the vaccines while we're running the phase 3 trials before we know whether the vaccines are efficacious or not. We will use them. If they are not efficacious, then we won't use them.
Simultaneously, we work with DoD on needed supplies so that when a vaccine is ready, we can administer it via Catholic and the response of the Department of Health and Human Services. The FDA can give emergency use authorization or licensure for promising.
We know we are cautiously optimistic to have a vaccine available by the end of the calendar year 2020 and the beginning of 2021.
What types of vaccines are scientists developing?
Operation Warp Speed has invested in a number of vaccine platform technologies, such as technology, but also a more established technology, such as protein-based vaccine.
Sponsors of vaccines, including the U.S. government, are looking at a variety of different platforms. And I'll use a sports analogy. This is like taking multiple shots on goal. We're cracking the virus. Hopefully, several of them will be effective.
What are some of the reasons for optimism?
The overwhelming majority of people who get infected with this virus do well and recover. In other words, their body has made an immune response that's adequate enough to suppress the virus and eliminate it from their body. That gives us optimism will induce the kind of response that will mimic that and so protect us.
We're marshaling the breadth and depth of scientific resources to find the safest and most effective vaccine.
I am confident FDA has the scientific expertise to make the right decision for the American people. We are laser focused on the science.
For the latest information, gov/coronavirus. Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at taxpayer expense.
Slideshow.
You might want to apologize. Sorry about the quality of the video. I think it was a little bit choppy for people, but hopefully you heard the sound okay.
Yeah, it came through on my screen pretty chopped up, so do apologize for that. It's a really good video, so if you have time later, you can look for it and check it out and see it better. But hopefully the video or the actual information came through. So what do we know about the vaccines that are available? So far, two brands are approved by the FDA, Pfizer and Moderna. Both of them are the new mRNA vaccines, which means they do not contain dead or weakened COVID-19 virus. There's no actual virus in the vaccine. I believe that the vaccine we will get here is the Pfizer, as long as nothing changes. And so this mRNA technology is relatively new for vaccine production, but they are using it already in cancer treatment, and it's been around for over 10 years. What it does is the mRNA goes into your cells. It doesn't last very long, but it gives our cells instructions to make a replica of the spike protein that is on the virus, which then causes our body to recognize it when the real one enters in and create an immune response with the antibodies that were created with the immunization, rather than having to learn the hard way and get sick and then having to beat it once you're already down. Two questions. Can the mRNA vaccine give me COVID-19? The answer is no. And can mRNA vaccine change my DNA? Which is also no. Both studies had relatively high effectiveness percentages. The Pfizer had 95% effective, and the Moderna had 94.1% protection, which seemed to be stable across races, ethnicities, and ages. After the vaccine, it's not really much of a secret that there's some side effects that come along with getting the shot. I read I read some information that the fatigue and headaches were relatively low. After I mentioned that last night, Dr. Stefan actually sent me some information that he had received and read that it appeared that it's actually quite a bit higher percentage of fatigue and headache and muscle pain and stuff like that than what I had read. But either way, there's a good chance that the day after the vaccine might be kind of uncomfortable, but it's certainly better than the actual the illness. So there will be some normal and expected fatigue, headache, muscle pains, possibly chills and fever, and pain at the injection site. Typically, we hear it's worse after the second dose, but you do have to get both doses to have immunization to the virus. It takes both, and this will last about 24 to 48 hours. But it's a good thing because it means that your body is doing its job and the vaccine is doing its job. And we plan to have Tylenol and ibuprofen available throughout the time period, and hopefully that will help reduce any sort of side effects from the vaccine. But it is very important to remember that if you don't get the second one, the first one was pointless. So hopefully the side effects don't turn anyone off from getting both shots. Our guidance that we're receiving so far does recommend that even residents and staff who have had the virus get the vaccine, as long as they're not currently sick. And the reason for that is because it's currently thought that the natural immunity from actually having the virus doesn't last all that long. We have to start testing people again after 3 months because the thought process is that you could get reinfected in as short as 3 months. That is pending research. It also it's unknown also how long the vaccine itself will provide immunity. Dr. Stefan can jump in later, and he has quite a bit of good knowledge and insight onto this, and he'll be able to clear up a lot of the questions that I leave through my little talk here. But obviously, research is pending on a lot of this information on how long it'll last. But we do know that actual immunization and protection doesn't actually take place until 1 to 2 weeks after the second dose. So we could be well into February before we can safely say that we're immunized here at Fairview Haven. So even if your loved ones have had the virus, I know that 50% of our residents in skilled have, and quite a few of our residents have had it, despite all efforts. But we would look to vaccinate them as well, because again, research is out on how long the natural immunity lasts. We are partnered with CVS. As I mentioned, we had the choice between Walgreens and CVS. We went with CVS. We've had very good luck with them with our flu shots that they administered to our staff the last 2 years. Seems like they have a really good handle on the process they're using to roll these out. And like I mentioned earlier, we don't have dates yet. I'm expecting those any day now. I was hoping we'd have them tonight, that I could share that with you. What you should expect as soon as we get the dates, they will be mailing us a big packet of consent forms, and we're going to need those back as soon as possible. So we're going to be very very proactive on getting those consent forms out and back. And they prefer their own consent forms. There is some communication they sent out that they would vaccinate based on a verbal consent, but they don't really want to. They want the hard copy that they send. So we'll expect that, and we would appreciate quick return service on that. So when you receive the consent form, and we're trying to figure out how much of it we can have filled out in advance, and how much we can, how much work we can save you guys and save time and get it back sooner. We do plan to fill out a good portion of the form, and we won't be able to complete the screening questions until the day of the vaccine. well, at least the one that asks if you are sick today. Yeah, we're using the same PowerPoint we used for staff, so bear with us here. Some of it's geared towards what we're doing as a team, but we do encourage vaccination, and everyone here in this room intends to get it, and we have had much success with team members. We had a meeting with them last night, similar to this one, and we've had several people come forward and say that they do feel more confident in getting the vaccine than they did before. There's a lot of misguided information out there. There's a lot of false information. There's twisted information. You know how the media and social media tends to be. So there's lots of conspiracy theories, which are all completely bogus for the most part, taking a grain of truth and turning it into a big false story. So our goal is to make everybody feel more comfortable with the vaccine, because as a team here in management, we are very comfortable with it. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stefan, and he can impart quite a bit of really good insight. And if there's questions, we'll answer those as well.
You are unmuted, Dr. Stefan.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining, and I'm kind of glad that they were able to put this together because I'm just like everybody else, had a lot of questions about it, and we're wanting people to research, to ask the questions so they feel comfortable with it for themselves or for their family members. I think the slideshow did a good job. One of the big questions or worries that people have is how quickly it was developed. And, you know, they mentioned in there that things were done in parallel, that it was a global effort. And then it was a big effort between the government and private industry, which usually it's not happening. Usually it's private industry trying to produce something and the government given the okay for the next steps. And that kind of red tape and slow down of the process was eliminated. But the other thing that was not mentioned in there is that this virus, this coronavirus, it's a new strain, but the coronavirus itself is not totally new. Back in early 2003 or 4, I think it was, and then again in 2012, there was the SARS and the MERS coronaviruses. And so they had already started a lot of research on a vaccine for those, but then did not need to complete it because those viruses seemed to go away. So they were picking up on that research already, and then doing these other things as a global effort, as a private and government effort, and then also running things in parallel. Most vaccines that have come to market have taken about 8 years, and this one, of course, is much quicker than that. But most of those also only had 8,000 to 10,000 people in their studies, and these have all had about 30,000 people. So I've convinced myself in my research that they didn't skip any steps, that it has been studied, and I think it's going to be a good thing as far as ending this pandemic. We've all heard about herd immunity. So for it to really be effective, we do need to get a lot of people willing to do this. Typically, a herd immunity takes about 70%. This one, they're talking more like 80% of people would need to get it to help really eliminate it from a community. But it is, and Dr. Fauci talked about it in the video, what vaccines have done to eliminate infectious disease it's just been incredible. And I think this is an opportunity to do that again. There's a lot more that we can talk about. Last night when we did it with the staff, people had really good questions. And so I'm willing to stay and answer questions that you guys might have. And if I don't have the answers, we'll try and find them for you. So Brandon, I don't know how you want to do that. Is it a type in thing again, or people unmuted?
Yes, we don't have people unmuted just yet. If you have access to the chat box on the Gotomeeting, That would be our preferred method for questions. Please feel free to enter any questions that you have. At this point, we don't have any coming across. Maybe if some of us in the room can remember some of the questions from yesterday from our staff, I think that would be good. Do you have any? Does anybody remember?
I was thinking that there was a question, are there any microchips in the vaccine?
Right. So that's something that has gone around on social media, some worries about that. And, you know, Bill Gates did not, who was the one that they were kind of focused on with that, did not really have any involvement in the development of these vaccines. And so there wouldn't be any reason to have a microchip in these vaccines.
As far as the prioritize, there's a question on here that says, how will you prioritize those who opt to get the vaccine? So when we have the CVS clinic, they are going to schedule 3 clinic days. And we don't have a choice what those 3 clinic days are. They will tell us which days are the clinic. And so basically everyone, staff and residents who choose to get the vaccine will get their first dose on the first day, first clinic day. The second clinic day will be scheduled for 3 weeks later. And there's really not a lot of wiggle room, I think 4 days or something like that. So day 21 or very close to that, everybody that got the first dose will get the second dose. If for some reason there's a new resident or new staff members, they can get the first dose on the second clinic day, and then the third clinic day get the third one. So they're giving us an extra clinic day. What?
The second dose on the third.
Yeah, sorry, the second dose on the third clinic day. So we get like an extra clinic day just in case we have, people taking their first dose on the second clinic day. So hopefully that made sense, but everybody will be getting it on those 3 dates.
Lila, I got a question about that I've not yet heard the answer of. Did CVS say that they were setting aside a second one for everybody who had the first?
Yeah.
I think there could be some worry about what if the supply doesn't keep coming.
Correct. So like if I opt in and I say I'm getting vaccinated, they're setting aside 2 doses. And the reason is because you have to have the same, like if you get a Pfizer vaccine, you have on the first dose, you have to get a Pfizer vaccine on the second dose. So so they set aside 2 doses for anybody that gets a first dose. There's the second dose reserved. Yes. There's another question. Are there any people who would not be candidates for the vaccine? Dr. Stefan, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, there really are not many that I've heard of. You know, they always talk about if you've had a reaction to and that sort of thing in a bad way, but you know, this is going to be new for everybody the first go round. So I think a lot of those questions would be for the second vaccine if somebody had a reaction, which is rare. I think in the European studies, there were just a couple of cases of a real anaphylactic reaction. But aside from that, there should not be any contraindication for getting the vaccine.
And I will say I read something about severely immunocompromised residents will probably be talking to their provider, their primary care physician, just to decide which are you more at risk for. And probably for most people, COVID-19 is the bigger risk than vaccine.
We have a question. If living temporarily off campus, will we be eligible to receive the vaccine? The answer to that question is yes, when your area is eligible to receive the vaccine. So at this point, we do not know. It's unclear whether or not our assisted livings and our independent living will be eligible to receive the vaccine at the same time as our skilled.
Assisted is.
Well, so when they called for the initial verification of our partnership with CVS, they asked for an approximate number of residents and staff. And I started to give them the entire campus numbers, and they said, whoa, hold on, just skilled for right now. And if we have enough, we will do everybody. So we're hoping that we can do everybody, but they did kind of indicate that they may have to come back for assisted living.
Okay.
And
Well, the
that was, you know, the CVS calling person and not somebody higher up. So we're just a little bit unclear of that. That's why I wanted to throw that out there. But when your area, so we have some independent living, some assisted living people that have gone to live elsewhere for a time being. When your area is eligible, we will be in touch with you to get you back here to get the vaccine that you opt to get.
And we should know that when they schedule the
Yeah, we will know
send the
that when they schedule,
consents.
sure.
Yeah, and now IDPH did say assisted living is included in that, but IDPH isn't CVS either, so, you know, they're not the ones actually delivering the
And this was very clearly just some dude that they hired to call all these places because he was, I mean, it wasn't super informative. It was just a, hey, just so you know, we're verifying that we're partnered for this type of thing. It was not, he wasn't very knowledgeable. So who knows? We're hoping for more communication. There is a question. If we wait, if we don't want to get it now, can we get it down the road? And the answer is yeah, eventually it will become more and more available throughout 2021. I don't know when, and I don't think there's any guarantee of anything after these initial dates that we get from CVS. I think that we have the opportunity, so we want to, you know, strike while the iron's hot, because it's going to be here on those dates. So if you're hesitant, I don't know what to tell you as far as when the next opportunity would be.
We have been in touch with the health department, Livingston County Health Department, and she said the doses, as far as she knows right now, the doses for the health department are for, you know, their purposes, and because the government set up this service with CVS, that is, you know, set aside for long-term care. So I'm not sure how much crossover they'll be able to do.
Someone last night asked about the fetal tissue as well.
Okay. Oh, there was a question about fetal tissue, Dr. Stefan, and the vaccination.
Yeah, so that is something that's definitely a concern for people. What I'm aware of with it is that there has been a lot of research over the last 40 years from a fetal cell line that had come from, I believe, Scandinavia, from an elective abortion in 1972. And from those cells, they've done a lot of research over the years. The Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines did not have any involvement with that stem cell at all. So that's one thing, is just what involvement could have been from aborted cells. And then the other thing that's gone around is whether or not there'd actually be stem cells in the vaccine itself, and there's not. The only thing that's injected with this is the mRNA, so this messenger RNA, which is kind of just the blueprint that goes into the cell. Our cell then can make this protein off of it, and that messenger RNA breaks down within hours. And so what's left is just our own cells, machine work, producing the protein that we want the antibodies against, which we should talk a little bit about the length of immunity afterwards. The natural immunity from the virus, we are worried, does not last much more than 3 months. Initially, when this virus came about early this year, I was hopeful that if enough people got it who had very mild symptoms, it would then give that herd immunity to protect everybody. But unfortunately, it looks like about 3 months that those antibodies have kind of waned away. This vaccine is much longer immunity. How long, we don't know for sure, because it's not been out long enough. But they're believing it's going to be at least 9 months and possibly up to 3 years. So this could be a vaccine that needs to be repeated, possibly annually or every other year. We're just not sure yet.
Okay. And then also, does it change your DNA? There was a question last night about the actual DNA. Does it modify your DNA?
Yeah, this absolutely would not. The RNA that we use, and especially this messenger RNA, is just given blueprint for our cells to produce this protein, not actually getting and affecting our own DNA. So it would not have an effect on our own DNA.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Can a vaccinated person still transmit COVID or be a carrier of COVID?
Yeah, so the idea is that there's this amount of virus that you could spread to somebody else. You know, we've all heard about this 15-minute at time, like if you're not with somebody for 15 minutes, the chance of you getting it from them is very low. And that just has to do with how much of the virus you are exposed to. And so the idea of a vaccine is that when my body gets exposed to it, I'm going to attack it right away. So yes, I would have some virus first in my nasal passageways, and right at that moment, I could potentially spread it to somebody else. But my body's going to attack it so quickly that it's not going to build up a lot of that virus in my system to be able to spread to others. So much lower chance that you would spread it to others. That's a really good question, though.
You're welcome to continue to type questions into the comment box. I want to cover a couple of other things, and I'll just take a break from vaccines here. What's that?
Do you want to open it up for talking?
We will, if you can just hold that. Okay. Yeah, we'll unmute everybody in a little while here. I want to touch on Parlor Visits. We were hopeful, of course, that we would be a much more open facility by Christmas. And unfortunately, that's not looking too promising. We're hopeful that our residents will at least be able to wander out of their rooms. But we are not going to be able to allow visitors. Obviously, we do have, for those of you that aren't aware, we do have one active COVID case currently at Fairview Haven. And Serenity Villa is now COVID-free, so to speak. Assisted living has been COVID-free for several days. They're actually released from their quarantine now. They can move about in the halls and visit with one another. But as far as visits, you are still more than welcome to use the parlor. Everybody is able to do that. We are trying to line up staffing so that we will have somebody here to escort the residents to and from and make sure that the parlor gets cleaned after every use. We are taking reservations. I just talked to the receptionist today. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure anybody that wants to visit on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day is able to do that. It's going to be difficult. Obviously, we have one parlor and we have several residents that need to use that one parlor, plus the Serenity Villa one, of course. So if you're interested, please call, and you're going to be asked when you call what times will work for you. We will, if there's only one time that you can come, we'll try to accommodate that. But it'd be nice if you had like a range of time that we could work you in, however we can do that. And then you'll also be asked how many in your party. And the reason for that is we have a couple other areas other than the parlor that we're going to try to set up if we need to. So just be patient with us and work with us. We'll get you scheduled. We'll do everything in our power to make sure everybody can see their loved one on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And then, of course, any other time the parlor is open. But we anticipate that there's going to be a full house for those 2 days. So on Wednesday, I think our plan is to sit down and really organize things and figure out where everybody's going to be. So I wanted to let you know that. As far as testing, we are continuing to test. We will continue to test twice a week as long as we are still in our outbreak situation. We have to go 14 days without a new positive case. before we're out of our outbreak. Otherwise, we continue to test bi-weekly at this point in time. We did do testing today. We did rapids again on all of our residents in skilled and assisted living and in Serenity Villa. They were all negative, so we're thankful for that. We did have one employee that tested positive who has not worked, so it actually is not counted. She would not have exposed anybody with the virus. So that's where we're at. We're very thankful to be where we're at. We obviously, still have a lot of fear, to be completely honest, because we have 50% of our residents here at the skilled nursing that haven't had COVID yet, but we trust that we are on top of things. Just got another question in here. How long before those vaccinated will be able to go in and out? Yeah, we don't really know that yet. We are waiting for clarification from the state, and the state's waiting for clarification from CMS. We do know that, you have to have that second dose before you're actually vaccinated, and there's a couple-week period after that second dose that you are still at risk. And after that, I don't think there's quite enough data yet. They're still researching, trying to figure things out. But at this point, they haven't given us any instructions as to how to proceed. Even those that have had the virus, they have instructed us that we really need to treat them just like we always have. That's a little bit disappointing to us, and we're still working on that, trying to figure out exactly what is the best approach. But at this point, the state has not given us any clarification as to how to handle those that have had the virus, as well as those who have been vaccinated. So we will, continue to watch for that. We're asking IDPH, the AC homes are working together, and they've submitted several questions to IDPH, to CMS, and at this point, we haven't gotten any clear answers on that. So we'll continue to research that. Is there anything else we needed to cover tonight before we open it up again?
I believe so.
I did have a question earlier in the week. I don't know if other people have this question. I'm sure they do, because there's always something on people's minds is beauty shop. Unfortunately, so because of our outbreak, we had to go back to phase 1 of our reopening, and we are stuck in phase 1 until our region 2 in the state of Illinois, until we come out of the tiered mitigation, we will be stuck in phase 1. So even though there's some things that we can progress forward in, there are things that we won't be able to per IDPH regulations. So hopefully that tiered mitigation will be lifted soon. We did receive good news today. Our county did get below 10% positivity rate last week. That's good news for us, because it helps with our testing guidelines and things of that nature. Got to stay down, but at least we're moving in the right direction. And I think the state's moving in the right direction as well. So keep praying for that. I think that's basically everything that we have for you tonight. Obviously, if you have questions, we are here to answer them. You can continue to type them in the chat. I am going to go ahead and unmute everybody. And if you don't have the access to the chat, then you can go ahead and speak up, and we'll take your questions. It might take a little bit of time to get everybody unmuted, but you are now unmuted. You might have your own computer muted. If it is, you can unmute it yourself now. Any questions?
If you don't have a question, consider muting yourself again, because it does create a lot of background noise.
Well, we will stay on the line for a little bit and be happy. If you have, thank you for tuning in tonight. And I will just tell you, like I told the staff when it comes to the vaccine, we're not here to pressure you. all I ask is that you do your research, that you get yourself educated on this vaccine, and make sure you really do understand the benefits of it as well as the risk. And there's both. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories, like Brandon mentioned, but just try to understand, what's conspiracy and what's not. And Dr. Stefan is a wealth of resource. Lila and Brandon have done a lot of research as well. Please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have at any time. And if you don't know the answer, we'll give you the answer. We basically just have to make an informed decision. We have recorded this session. We will put it on our YouTube site and also on our website. Sally will get it all uploaded for you. And we'll also post that link to the video that we played. So if anybody wants to go back and watch that, they can. And again, just as a source of information, our website does have a COVID page. We try to keep that updated with our status and any other information that you need to know. As always, feel free to reach out to us with any questions. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
Yep.
So as far as you said, those consents for the immunizations, the vaccinations, you're going to have the POAs sign those then, not the resident?
It depends. It depends on the resident. Those that are able to. Those that are able.
Okay.
Able to sign their own and make their decisions will be able to make that decision for themselves. Those that are not, yeah, they will.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Stick around for a little while. I think I'm going to go ahead and if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to us. Oh, I just got another one. Any idea when we might learn about whether assisted living will receive the vaccine in first clinic? I don't know that. We don't even know when the first clinic will be, but we will definitely reach out as soon as we know.
And we will certainly push them really hard to make that available to us.
And also, if you don't get those in the CVS clinic, I have also been in touch with the health department. And so I think that might be another good resource for our assisted and we expect the residents will be able to eat together after they're all vaccinated.
I would guess that by that time they will be. That probably before that. If we can get to phase 3, we would be able to do. In fact, I think maybe in phase 2 now we can do communal dining. So I would say we're not far away from communal dining as long as we're outbreak. Up here that people are trying to have unmuted everything. It's possible that your phone or your computer is still muted. So if you're trying to talk, not sure why you're not coming.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tanya Williams, and I just want to say thank you for all the hard work you are all doing there. I'm a nurse out here in California, and I just want to share with you that I did receive the vaccine today, and I'm very happy and comfortable with it. Like you, Dr. Stefan, I've done my research, talked to my fellow colleagues, physicians, and I feel that it's very safe and it's a great thing. So as far as any reaction, I didn't, it was fine. I'm a little soreness in the arm, and that's about it. After they gave us the shot, they had us wait for about 15 minutes just to see if we had any side effects, any any reactions. And then if not, we were sent on our way and then told us to come back in 17 to 21 days to get the next dose.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was one thing that I forgot to mention was just within the healthcare systems, the only two that I'm aware of is Christie's and Carl's. And so Carl is about 75% of the employees have signed up to get one. And Christie with the physicians has been 87% have signed up. So sometimes people are just curious who all is going to do this. And so pretty high percentage of the healthcare professionals are going to. So I appreciate you telling me how yours went too.
Again, if you tried to ask a question and couldn't get through, please feel free to email us or text us. We'd be happy to respond. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and close shop. So thank you again for participating. Dr. Stefan, we have to leave.